Ayodhya recently. I traveled to Ayodhya after the news of the alleged loot of temple funds took place in the city. I met locals, I met pilgrims, I met politicians, I've met academics to find out what they thought of this alleged theft in which 8 people have been sent to judicial custody by a SIT constituted by the state government of Uttar Pradesh. The locals seem crestfallen and angry. Pilgrims and devotees from across India and many of them from across the world, some of them were from overseas destinations, they seem totally demoralized because they seem to comprise a large chunk of those people who had sent in money and valuables in good faith to the temple coffers. I spoke to some politicians who said they expect a speedy implementation of the probe, and they said they want the guilty to be brought to justice as early as possible. I spoke to a lot of professors and government officials who say that they had a wind of all this, they had the relatively good idea of what was happening in the Ram temple for at least a year now because of ostentatious display of wealth by a handful of people who seem to have stolen temple funds. The most important aspect that triggers outrage among locals that I found was that these people who had thieved money from donation funds seem to have no sense of foreboding, which was why they were indulging and displaying ostentatiously all the kind of wealth that they had amassed overnight. I spoke to one of the complainants who is a former Shiv Sainik, a leader of Shiv Sena in Uttar Pradesh and also who was part of the Ram Temple movement, Mr. Santosh Dubey, who was extremely vocal about his opposition to some of the trust members whom he say were the mastermind of this loot of people's money, the money that was sent in by devotees from across the world, including valuables, including silver, gold, and so on. What he worries about is that these people have political patronage and support. The local people, at the same time, are angry, apart from the fact that they are crestfallen. They're angry because they've seen these people, at least some of these people, spend money which is far disproportionate to their known sources of income, which made all these people suspect before their eyes, long before the probe started and the complaints were filed with the police.
ये सुगबुगाहट तो पिछले 1 वर्ष पहले से हम लोगों को जानकारी थी कि वहाँ चोरी हो रही, क्योंकि उसमें जो लोग जुटे हैं, जो काम कर रहे हैं, वो सब बड़ी-बड़ी बिल्डिंग, बड़े-बड़े वाहनों के स्वामी, करोड़पति बनते जा रहे हैं। तो ये रुपया कहाँ से आ रहा है? 20-22 हज़ार रुपया पाने वाला, 15 हज़ार रुपये पाने वाला स्कोडा और स्कॉर्पियो, इनोवा गाड़ी से तो नहीं घूम सकता है, उसको तो गनर नहीं मिल सकते हैं। ये कहाँ से मिल गया इन लोगों को? तो ये सब जाना जा रहा था, खबरें आ रही थी, पर हम लोग प्रतीक्षा कर रहे थे कि पुष्ट खबरें हो जाएं, तब संतुष्ट हों।
Now, the problem with proper accounting comes to the fore at this point of time. In a temple as large as this one, should that temple, by virtue of the fact that the government of India and also the government of Uttar Pradesh have representatives, IAS officers in the trust, should it be considered a public institution and be brought under the ambit of the Right to Information Act is a question that is gaining in momentum. One of the lawmakers, CPM Rajya Sabha MP John Britas, has already sent in a letter to Home Minister Amit Shah to bring in the Ram Temple Trust under the ambit of RTI. if you can have members of the central government, IAS officers, and the state government, again IAS officers, in the trust, why can't it be treated as a public institution and be made more accountable by bringing it under the ambit of RTI? That is a question being asked. At the same time, there is another question that has risen. How viable has been this demand made for long by Hindutva organizations and Hindu community leaders that the government, be it at the center or at the level of the states, should not have anything to do with the running of temples? How viable is that? I spoke to a lot of pilgrims, devotees. I spoke to several locals. I spoke to those people who have been closely associated with the temple movement, and they say that is probably an excuse for a few bad apples to gain some profits or to amass wealth. Because according to them, without proper oversight by the government, running of the temple is going to create a lot of problems, and they believe that misappropriation of funds, misappropriation of the money that many devotees from across the world have sent in with good faith is likely to happen in multiple temples. We already know of similar alleged loot taking place in other temples. News reports have come in from Ujjain, also similarly from Badrinath. So consensus I could arrive at this point of time by speaking to a large section of the local people in Ayodhya, pilgrims who were coming in to visit the Ram temple, and a lot of politicians as well as academics and government officials, is that they think government oversight is must for the running of temples. This may not be good news for those organizations that have long been demanding that the government stay away from running, or at least keeping a watch on the funds of centers of worship of the Hindus. But then this loot once again brings the debate back. Here we are.